to be able to just make a choice on your own and just be able to speak for yourself.
This One's Wife, Suckered. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Narcissists tend to be divisive characters, Marmite characters, as we often say in Britain. For those of you that are unfamiliar with Marmite, it's a yeast extract which can be utilised to make a drink or smeared on toast. The Aussies have a similar food type called Vegemite. With Marmite, it sells itself on the basis that there are many people that love it and there's plenty of people that hate it, and you fall into one camp or the other. You're not generally indifferent to it. You always have a reaction to it. And that's often the case with narcissists, that some people absolutely adore somebody who's a narcissist because the narcissist treats them well, is exciting, is interesting, is fun to be around, is generous towards them. And, of course, there are plenty of people who hate narcissists for the obvious reasons of their abusive behaviour. It's similar with regard to This One's Wife. There is a number of individuals who look upon her favourably. As I've explained previously, it's a decreasing group, but involves the brain-dead sugars, people who live through her, individuals that are on the payroll, and others that see her as useful in terms of their own agenda. Thus, nearly all of those individuals only praise her because they're getting something out of it, and it's not really linked to her being genuinely praiseworthy. A much larger group dislikes her based upon the way that she has behaved and the repeated actions that she has exhibited and the things that she has said. This Marmite approach to This One's Wife can also be seen in coverage about her. On the one hand, you can usually rely upon the Daily Express, the Daily Mail, the New York Post, the Daily Telegraph, although it has one journalist there that brown-noses her somewhat, the Times, to be largely critical of her, the Mail and Express particularly so. You then, of course, have the supine publications that are there to kiss ass, People.com, OK, Tatler, Town and Country, Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire, and, of course, Hello. Those publications kiss her derriere, not because they particularly like her, but because they're paid to do so. Nevertheless, they are supportive of her. We regularly hear commentary from many of those publications that I've mentioned, and therefore it's rather refreshing to have another view from elsewhere. And this time, it comes from something called Outkick. And Mike Gunzelman has written, This One's Wife finds new podcast deal as company loves throwing money away. Aha. Well, I think we're going to get the flavour of Mr. Gunzelman's view about This One's Wife. If at first you don't succeed, find someone to throw you more money. That's what This One's Wife is doing after she was able to sucker a new podcast company into financially backing her. This One's Wife's signing with Lemonada Media comes just months after a damning story of how she and husband Prince Harry practically stole $20 million from Spotify in return for just a 12-episode podcast that nobody listened to.
I'm proud to now be able to share that I am joining the brilliant team at Lemonada to continue my love of podcasting,
the Duchess of Sussex wrote on her newly launched website.
Being able to support a female-founded company with a roster of thought-provoking and highly entertaining podcasts is a fantastic way to kick off 2024.
It's unclear how much Lemonada Media is throwing at This One's Wife, but I can already tell them that it's too much. Do we really need another This One's Wife's podcast? When it comes to her brand, This One's Wife hasn't had much success. whether it's her failed podcast, her failed book, her climate change hypocrisy, or the fact that she and her hubby seem to have exaggerated a high-speed chase happening in the middle of Manhattan that nobody else witnessed, there's just something about her that irks many people. Plus, she hates South Park. What kind of media star hates South Park? Hey, don't be mad at me. Even Taylor Swift sees the writing on the wall when it comes to This One's Wife. This One's Wife's new podcast deal comes after the Ringer's Bill Simmons eviscerated the former but back again royal couple by calling them fucking grifters that didn't do anything to deserve the $20 million payday from Spotify. I will give Lemonada the same advice I gave Amazon back in October, when they were rumoured to be picking up This One's Wife's podcast. Talk about fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I can't even feel bad for Amazon if they're stupid enough to go along with this. Unfortunately, for Amazon and Audible, they are gearing up for a potential disaster. I can't wait for the inevitable statement when This One's Wife decides to mutually part with the company as the two decide to go their separate ways. You know, it's only a matter of time. I'll send them this article when it does with 3 words in the email subject. Told you so. Mr. Gunzelman there, no fan of This One's Wife, and interesting to have a different view from one of the more mainstream publications that we often dip into. He wasn't pulling any punches with regard to his disdain for This One's Wife and laying bare precisely what she is, a grifting, talentless individual. But nevertheless, it is demonstrative again of how more and more people call her out, that she has that law of diminishing returns, that whilst she has managed to convince Lemonada Media to allow her to podcast, we know it won't be long before it falls by the wayside because she has no talent, she's not interesting, and she's extremely difficult to work with. Lemonada Media has done very well out of the publicity. After all, this new announcement was splashed across the world's press. So many people have now heard of Lemonada Media who hadn't before. And perhaps that might be their thinking. They might realise, we know she's shit, but she's prominent. And therefore, we're more interested in getting publicity for all of our other podcasts than actually doing anything much with her, because we know she's lazy and she's not going to produce anything. So it might be a marketing masterstroke by Lemonada in the sense of getting exposure for their other work. So long as they're not throwing significant sums of money at This One's Wife, then that may well have been a good outcome for them. If they are paying her, they're going to regret doing so, because, as Mr. Gunzelman has pointed out, it's all going to end in disaster, and she may well have suckered them with regard to a new home, but it's not going to end well, because it never does when it involves This One's Wife, because of the collateral consequences of her narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.